How's it going, Dylan?
Good. I sense a hint of frustration in your voice.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not
I'm
at all?
fine and dandy. Never
Okay.
been better.
Is it because that when I parked the Nissan Juke outside of your apartment, I smashed in the side of your Prius? Oh, I didn't tell you that yet.
Well, guess what? I don't have a Prius.
Who did I hit?
I don't know. Somebody.
How's your day coming along?
My day is going. We just. It's going.
Yes.
It
It is going. In what direction? We cannot say.
don't know. Up, down, sideways. One of those.
Definitely sideways.
I showed Dylan a play that I wrote in college.
Yes. We recorded the entire play.
You did 10 minutes of it.
And then realized that the recording actually was not happening.
See, this is the thing, guys. This is the technical difficulties that we've been experiencing are still persistent, as quite evident by the last episode with my microphone issues. So the technical issues vary, but if anybody out there can tell me why Audacity just stops recording randomly
Yeah.
in the middle of me talking, that'd be great.
Maybe we shouldn't use Audacity anymore.
You know, I was thinking that. David's works fine. I've
Yeah.
never had an issue with David's.
I've never had an issue with this one either.
Just fine. I don't fucking know why. And I've tried 2 different computers now and many different microphones, 2 different audio interfaces. I just got a new one actually for Christmas. I treated myself. So
Yeah, I can see the slight hairline fracture in your Sanity beginning to spread.
It's spreading, and I am staring at my Audacity, making sure that it's still recording.
I've never seen your eyes so big before.
Yeah, and they're pretty big to begin with. They're pretty, they're pretty large. So that's where my brain's at. A slight headache. I'm a little crazed, but here we are.
Here we are. I'm scared.
Yeah, I'm scared too. But life is good.
Life is good.
Life's going. Yeah, life's moving.
Yeah, you are heading on like 3 different vacations in a row, right?
Yes. So I'm heading out to the Caribbean on Friday. Flight is at 7. I'll be there for a week.
You're going to bring back a puka shell necklace or shark tooth necklace.
Maybe both. Por qué no los dos?
As you always say.
Yeah, as I always say. I might have like one of those, like, you know how like the like strand of hair that has like, not ribbon, like thread wrapped around it?
Yes.
Yeah. Not going to dabble into cultural appropriation, but, 5-year-old Madison might have whenever she didn't know about those things.
Yes.
Maybe I'll find a Caribbean lover.
Holy shit. Hey, you're editing this episode. You get to decide what stays in and what goes out.
I told David this morning to be cautious of pineapples and those of the upside down variety.
Oh, right.
Yes.
It's interesting because there is a house on, I want to say Main Street. I don't know the fucking street names in this goddamn city. But there's a house, and in front of the house are 2 pineapple statues.
Really?
And I always wondered, that's interesting decor.
That is.
Was that intentional?
It has to be.
Because this is a pretty like schwanky house.
Where?
It's been turned into apartment buildings.
I don't think I've seen this.
But if you go down Main Street and you look to the left.
Main Street.
Front Street.
Front Street. Okay.
Yes. And you look to the left.
Looking to the left. Where?
A little ways past our workplace, you can see that there's an apartment building with 2 pineapple statues out front. And either this person had a particular taste for exotic fruit.
Or a particular taste for exotic people. One of the 2.
So what does Caribbean Madison look like? When you come back from the vacation, who are you going to be?
I have no freaking clue. I really don't. So like cruise culture is one that I've only been familiar with through Beach 2 Sandy Water 2 my beloved podcast. And I'm kind of scared of it, to be quite frank. There's a lot that I know that I wish that I didn't. And now that I am going on a cruise and like getting notifications for it, I see that it's quite evident.
What is?
The culture, the cruise culture.
Oh, I know. I've been on a few cruises myself.
You have?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Where?
I have been on a cruise to Alaska.
That's
not Alaska, to Canada.
Oh.
Just a disappointment. I have been on a cruise to literally nowhere. I think we just went in a circle. Oh,
Wait.
no, it was to St. Martin.
Okay.
And it is, it's not necessarily for me.
Okay.
It is for some people.
Why is it not for you?
I don't know.
Tell the people. They want to know.
I've just never been super in love with travel, to be honest. That's probably a lot of it.
Okay. You don't like to travel?
Not so much. I traveled a lot when I was younger because my
right.
dad was a captain for United for 30 years.
We've talked about this, yeah.
And went all over the place. Europe to Amsterdam, Paris, Switzerland, London, Italy, and the best place on earth.
Pennsylvania.
Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Yep. Because, folks, you can make a Paris of your backyard. You can make an Italy of the place where you live. If you just change your perspective, your world can be just as beautiful and rich culturally as any in Europe.
You heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here worst.
Truly, especially considering the times that we're living in.
Oh, yes, the times.
The times.
We didn't even mention the times.
We haven't even mentioned the times. I'm okay without mentioning the times. I feel like everybody has a general consensus of what the times are.
Well, this is a political podcast.
I thought it was a fashion podcast.
It is a fashion. It is also a language learning podcast.
Yeah. Rush Limbaugh is actually our next guest.
He's actually in the corner. He's not saying anything.
Yeah. He it's really funny because every time we record, he actually comes over and just sits there and doesn't say anything. And then he just leaves without saying anything.
This same exact gag is in another podcast that I listen to.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they talk about like Kobe Bryant being in the room during every podcast. It's from If I Were You, the Jake and Amir podcast.
I've never heard of that.
Well, you have the comedic acumen of two white Jewish men in their 40s.
I'm honored, actually. I've never had a better compliment in my life.
Wonderful.
I'm thrilled.
But the current president is basically selling the United States for scrap.
Yeah.
And it is, we say that there's something we say. What do we say?
I don't know.
What do we say to this?
We say. What is there to say? What is there? You can cry.
You can cry.
You can.
Multiple choice. A, you can cry. B, you can sob. C, you can
weep.
D, you can
laugh maniacally. And
as you lose your mind over editing software.
Yes.
So it's honestly up to you.
Yeah. I'm a weeper. Mm-hmm. I'm a sobber.
I'm a midnight robber.
But beyond that, cruising, gonna go.
You're gonna come back?
Hopefully. Well, see, that's the thing. Speaking of coming back, Dylan, that is one of the reasons why I wasn't quite so fond of cruises.
Because one did not come back.
Human trafficking.
Human trafficking.
It's very rampant on cruises. It's very easy to be humanly trafficked
on
cruises.
Inhumanely trafficked, if anything.
Inhumanely trafficked. Amy Bradley. I covered her 25 episodes ago, and that haunts me to this day. And it probably will never not haunt me. And so human trafficking.
What is the exact cruise branch that you're going on?
I'm going on Virgin Voyages.
That is the worst. That is the number one place people get human trafficked.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Know that human traffickers are licking their lips.
Yeah. Yeah. So wish me luck. But there will be like a drag show and like some theater shows there. And
don't love that.
A theater? You don't love the theater?
I do love the theater.
Yeah. The theater.
Sorry, I just
died
a little bit. But yeah, what else is it going to be?
David and I are going on an excursion.
Okay.
Zip lining.
You're going to excurge?
Excurge. We're going to excurge and go ziplining.
Ziplining?
Yes, that was his choice. And
That's
then my
fun.
choice was to go hiking through the dense forest.
Of?
I don't remember. So that's the other thing. I don't know much about this trip. It's probably not good. I have it all in my phone. But so much has been happening in life that it hasn't really locked in my brain. So for those of you who also don't know, I mentioned last week, but you probably couldn't hear it because of the shitty audio quality, but I'm going to Kenya. And then shortly after that, and by shortly, I mean quite literally 12 hours after that, maybe 24, I'm going to Prague and then Budapest and then Hungary. So I've got a lot going on. And I'm getting married, apparently, which is fucking wild. I'm a baby.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
Speaking as a fellow baby,
Yeah.
it's okay. I'm just sorry. It's the you're talking about being human trafficked, and they're talking about all these places in Europe, which are famously places where people get human trafficked in movies.
You don't know what's even worse?
What?
David, so I'm going to look like a real damn fool here. I don't know much about history in that part of the world.
You've only lived 26 years?
I know. And David was watching a documentary last night. It was like surviving Black Hawk Down. And I didn't know what that was. And so we were watching it and it was very upsetting. And I looked it up then and I was even more upset.
Right.
And then, talking about Somalia, that's where it was. And then I looked up, I had a call today to go over my trip at Kenya. And David was asking last night, like, where? I don't even know where Somalia is. I was like, I don't know.
That's where the Somalians are from.
Yeah. Well, I was looking at the CDC travel guide for Kenya to see what shots I had. And guess what I saw?
What do you see?
Somalia. Right there. Wow. Right next door.
So if you want, you can hop over the border and visit Somalia.
So yeah, I'm terrified of being human trafficked, yet I'm going to countries and putting myself in positions where one could be frequently human trafficked. So I am not asking for it, but...
Well, given the organization that you're going to be with in Kenya, I think you should be safe.
I agree.
It's mostly the European countries and the cruise.
Yeah.
It's the cruise. It's the hiking through dense forests.
I will say, genuinely, Kenya, I'm not concerned. Genuinely. Everyone's like, are you nervous? I'm like, not really. They got it kind of like nailed down. But the cruise? Where people are just out in the open? Yeah. On and off ships? On, off, on, off, on, off. Did they all get back on? I don't know. I hope so. And then Prague, Budapest, Hungary.
Yeah.
People are hungry for humans. And I could be one of them.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So that's my life, right? So yes, to be quite frank, for the cruise, I'm going to the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you which islands I'm going to. Antigua,
Bahama. Come on, pretty mama. How's the rest of the song go? Donna Kokomo.
I know the song, but I'm purposely not finishing it because I want to stew in this uncomfortable moment.
Going to Caribbean islands on a boat. That's where I want to go. To get human trafficked.
Jesus.
Welcome, everyone, to My Existential Crisis.
Yeah, the
podcast where we talk about all the things that make us question our entire sense of self. My name is Dylan.
And my name's Madison. And I'm not going to get human trafficked.
You're not. And if you do, that's going to look so bad for me.
It's
for
good
me.
For you.
I'm worried about that for me.
Why?
Because, everyone will be like, oh, you joked about that.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, poor taste. This episode will be out, and they'll be like, that's poor taste.
Yeah, and I couldn't even ask you to take it down.
Yeah, because you don't know how.
No, I don't have the login information for Spotify.
It's literally all in the Google Doc. It's literally been there since day one.
You think I read that shit?
I know, you don't.
Madison, what do you have for us today?
Well, today I've got something actually, maybe I'll encounter it on my own on one of my trips.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's a very fascinating phenomena called the third man syndrome. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of the first two.
The third man syndrome, also considered to be the third man factor. But first I'm going to read off my sources, and then I'm just going to dive right into the very first encounter that we know of.
Okay.
And I'll explain a little bit of what it is. So my sources are Wikipedia, of course.
Yes.
IFL Science, BuzzFeed, Deseret, Psychologs, and All That's Interesting. Yes. There was...
third man syndrome. I've heard of best man syndrome, where you get smashed and really embarrass the groom. But what is third man syndrome? I'm interested to hear about this.
So I will just describe the first encounter to you, and it'll kind of give you a little bit of a taste of what third man syndrome is.
The first encounter of third man syndrome.
The first encounter of third man syndrome. That's correct. That's correct. So from 1914 through 1917, Sir Ernest Shackleton would embark on an ill-fated journey across the entire Antarctic. And although his expedition would fail, it would be remembered as one of the greatest feats of endurance in human history. Besides the remarkable achievement, during the final leg of his 3-year Antarctic expedition, Sir Ernest Shackleton had an experience that would be remembered for a century to come and unlock a psychological phenomena that would remain a mystery to this day. Sir Shackleton's ship, the Endurance, became stuck in the ice in 1915, which forced the soldiers to trek across unlivable and inhospitable land, eventually to find safety. Against all odds, they would survive. In his 1919 book called South, he described his belief that a fourth companion joined him and his men during the most difficult part of their journey.
Interesting.
He described, quote, during that long and racking march of 36 hours over the unnamed mountains and glaciers of South Georgia, it seemed to me often that there were 4, not 3. So while none of the men commented on it at the time, they chose to instead focus on tackling the treacherous mountains and glaciers that stood their path. Only afterwards were they surprised to discover that they had all had the same experience. The group had a very strong sensation of an unseen figure at their side. It felt like a guiding presence, offering a glimmer of reassurance when hope was nearly lost. And Shackleton wrote, I said nothing to my companions on the point, but afterwards, Worsley said to me, Boss, I had a curious feeling on the march that there was another person with us. Crean confessed the same idea. One feels the dearth of human words, the roughness of mortal speech, in trying to describe things intangible, but a record of our journeys would be incomplete without a reference to a subject very near to our hearts. So the third man syndrome, or the third man factor, describes a strange phenomena in which a presence intervenes at a critical moment to offer encouragement, guidance, or support. And those who have experienced the phenomena report feeling a presence despite being alone.
This topic is surprisingly positive and optimistic for you.
Yeah, it is surprisingly. You know, it's been a time. It's been a time in the world.
Just this afternoon, it's been a time.
Just this afternoon, where we lost 15 minutes maybe of recording.
Yeah.
It's been a time already. So I figured we need something a little bit lighter. And
100%.
the stories are treacherous, I will say that, but they do all end positively. I can give that away now.
Now, the first instance of third man syndrome was with the fourth man.
Yes. That I'm going to explain how it was named that just now. So the third person, third man, is sometimes just a comforting presence, almost like an imaginary friend. While some have reported that this person steps in and lends a hand to save their life, it also offers guidance and helps individuals navigate intense life or death situations. People report feeling motivated, comforted, redirected, and even encouraged to persevere. The name derives from a T.S. Eliot poem, The Wasteland, which was inspired by Shackleton's experience. And
April is the cruelest month. Sorry.
April is lovely. April is the best month. Excuse you.
That's from the poem, The Wasteland.
Is it actually?
Yeah.
Oh. Wait, are you being serious?
Yeah.
I can't tell.
April is the cruelest month.
Oh, you know this?
Yes.
So then you must know how it was derived.
Let me think for a second. Third man syndrome. Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah? Do you know it?
There's a part in the poem where he's talking about walking with somebody, and there's a person on their other side. Who was it who's walking with us, so on and so forth?
Who is the third who walks always beside you? And I count there are only you and I together. But when I look up ahead on the white road, there is always another one walking beside you.
Yes. Beautiful poem. Very eerie.
Yeah. It's very, very eerie. So yeah, that's where the third man syndrome was derived. After Shackleton came forward with his story, also very impressed that you knew the poem.
Thank you. I know a lot of poetry.
I wasn't doubting that you knew the poetry, but Dylan pulls the legs sometimes, and I never know with him what is what is up or down or sideways.
Absolutely.
So yes, after Shackleton came forward, more and more people began to come forward with similar experiences in the darkest moments of their lives. Mountain explorers, shipwreck survivors, and polar explorers have all claimed to have either seen a person or heard a voice, often providing this information on how they should escape their situation. Writer John Grieger, author of The Third Man Factor, Surviving the Impossible, claims there are several scientific explanations, such as biochemical reactions to misfiring brain activity, but he does believe a spiritual explanation makes the most sense. And he says, quote, "Clearly there is a spiritual or religious explanation to this phenomenon. Many skeptics and non-believers also have this experience, and they attribute it to other explanations, and there is certainly some very interesting science behind this. If we understand that the third man factor is a part of us, in the way adrenaline is, then we can start to access it more easily. It's not a hallucination in the sense that hallucinations are disordering. This is a very helpful and orderly guide, but no one really knows what causes it exactly. Some people claim that it is a hallucination or a coping mechanism triggered by extreme stress, while others believe that it is help given by a guardian angel."
Right. And it isn't necessarily fair to automatically discount a hallucination because it's simply a hallucination, because everything we see is processed through our own brain, and it is creating these images for us. Hallucination is just another created image.
Exactly.
I think, and this is has picked up a lot of traction in the spiritual community over, decades, but the idea of spirit guides and a spirit team, basically these entities of a higher vibration who are working for our benefit.
Yeah.
And their appearance on Earth to guide us to safety doesn't seem that illogical.
Yeah.
If we're to follow that idea.
100%. Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. Like, if only a few people experienced this, it probably would have been rejected and discounted. But there have been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories of this phenomena happening. And I don't quite know that it matters where it comes from. I think that might be part of, obviously being great to find out for sure, but I think it might come from multiple different places. I don't know if that there is one true answer. People say that triggers could be boredom or extreme fatigue, sleep deprivation. It's even been utilized in therapy with the understanding that it could be a coping mechanism in attempts to help people with trauma. So it's used to support the idea that there are two halves of your brain, or like two sides. So it helps to support that theory as well. It also helps to support like repressed memories, or like even going back to thinking like an imaginary friend. Like you use different things to cope.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
The reemergence of an imaginary friend when you're much older to guide you towards safety.
Exactly.
Is pretty profound.
It is. And especially if you think about, like, everyone says how children and young people are the closest to the afterlife. Like, that's why there's so many more encounters with young people seeing ghosts, and like children experiencing phenomena, because people say that they're closer to that side of life. So we kind of grow out of it. So like, what if it's there and it just comes back when we need it the most?
And I wonder what it would be like if a child was raised without any of the like limitations that we place on children, and allowed to develop naturally without a lot of the limiting ideas that we ourselves have experienced over time, the definitions that are placed on things. What people tell us isn't possible.
Exactly.
Sound like RFK. Sorry, as you were saying.
Yeah, but just in general, some of the people who are most commonly reporting this syndrome, mountain climbers, people who are stuck in high altitudes or extreme climates, survivors of a natural calamity, whether it is a disaster like a flood or an earthquake, or people who've been something traumatic in that regard, like war, military soldiers, people who are usually staring in the face of death in combat. One study involves adventurers reported that the largest group involved climbers, with solo sailors and shipwreck survivors being the second most common group, and then followed by polar explorers. So they actually did a study about this.
Can you imagine how eerie it would be if you were a solo sailor, heading into a storm, and then suddenly there was another person on the boat?
That's the thing. Like, in most of the experiences that I was reading, people aren't terrified by it. Like, it's kind of like, almost like in their delirium and exhaustion, they welcome it. Like, it's just nice to have the idea of someone that it's not even scary to them.
Yeah. And
I didn't even think about that, because nobody that I had even read reported like being afraid of it, which is really interesting.
Is there any consistency in the appearance of these?
There's usually not an appearance to them. That's the thing.
Oh.
Usually they're bodiless. Usually it's a voice or just like this feeling of a presence.
Oh, I was under the assumption that it was an actual like entity that was walking beside them.
No. Usually it's just like a voice or like this presence that they might be able to like visualize it or like hear the voice, but they usually don't see anything.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So now all I have for you are experiences from different people. So this one is from Frank Smythe. One of the people who experienced this was British explorer Frank Smythe, who almost became the first person to summit Mount Everest in 1933. Along with his climbing party, Smythe made the intense journey towards the summit in poor conditions, but his party had to turn back after terrible weather and lack of oxygen, pretty important for doing anything, made it impossible. But Smythe continued. He was very determined to make the summit, but narrowly missed it by 304 meters, 1,000 feet. While he was completely alone, though, that's not how he remembered it. Quote, "At the time I was climbing alone, I had a strong feeling that I was accompanied by a second person. The feeling was so strong that it completely eliminated all loneliness I might otherwise have felt. At one point, he was so convinced of his imaginary guide that he tried to share some mint cake with it. But upon turning around, he realized there was nobody there with him."
It's interesting. There was a story on Radio Rental that I listened to recently.
You just mentioned that podcast to me. I have to listen to it.
Yeah, and it was about a guy who was living with a host family in Europe. And he takes a train but falls asleep and gets off of the station thinking he can take the opposite train back. But he soon gets lost in the streets and doesn't know the address of his host family's house. And he's sitting there on the road and somebody pulls up in a car and he gets out. And this man tells him to follow him back to the car. They get inside and the guy isn't questioning this. And they drive and the narrator falls asleep. And when he wakes up, the car's in front of the host family's house.
That's wild.
And he gets out and never sees the man again.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That sounds very similar to this. That's crazy. Wow.
So I wonder if there are different ways that this phenomenon manifests.
For sure. There definitely is. I have this next one, Joe Simpson. A similar experience is documented by a mountain climber in his 1988 book, Touching the Void, which recounts his near-death experience in the Peruvian Andes. He and his climbing partner, Simon Yates, attempted to become the first men to summit the western face of Ciudad Grande in the Peruvian Andes. And though the summit was successful, the difficult descent proved almost fatal for Simpson. After the two men climbed down, Simpson fell and broke his leg. And though Yates attempted to help him, he was unable to do so, eventually cut the rope that held them together to avoid falling down the mountain himself. So now Simpson, alone, badly injured, faced almost certain death, but then he started to hear a powerful voice. Simpson describes the voice, which encouraged him and directed him as he crawled back to base camp after suffering a horrible leg injury. The voice was clean and sharp and commanding. It was always right, and I listened to it when it spoke and acted on its decisions. I had to get to the glacier. The voice told me exactly how to go about it, and I obeyed. It didn't seem to concern me that I was moving like a snail. So long as I obeyed the voice, then I would be all right. And miraculously, he was able to drag himself forward until he encountered their camp. 11 days after his initial fall, he was taken to the hospital, and his survival is considered one of the most startling cases of survival against the odds known to man. So yeah, that one emerged as a voice.
That's interesting. There's I remember hearing this somewhere, I don't remember where, but that we're filtered. I don't know what the right way to phrase this. That we're so imagine if like there's a higher self and then a funnel below that higher self.
Yeah.
And then we are at the very bottom receiving limited information through our restricted body and consciousness.
Yeah.
And what if during, times of stress, that higher self is able to communicate more clearly with who we are? But it's just us talking to us.
I love that theory because it makes me think like when you're in fight or flight, like if you think about all the things that you can do, that you can do, that your mind can do, that your body can do, but maybe like you think that you can't, or like you have like a limitation of some kind that you think is in place. But when you're in that type of like autopilot mindset, who's to say that you couldn't connect with like that a higher self that is a higher version of yourself, Yeah. Who's to say? I have another story.
Excellent.
Reinhold Messner.
Oh, they don't make names like they used
don't.
to. What year was this?
1970.
Oh, of course.
Messner embarked on a perilous climb of Nanga Parbat in the Himalayas with his brother Gunther. Though the brothers succeeded in summiting the mountain, they ran into trouble during their descent. At that point, a strange third presence seemed to appear to help them. And this one's really interesting to me because it's not like the third man. I'll just read it. This third man wasn't like a guardian angel who could work miracles. And I think that's really interesting and important to talk about in this story specifically because his brother died during this event. He came up with an explanation of what he experienced, but essentially he said that one section, the front points of our crampons were only biting with a few millimeters deep into the glassy hard ice. At times our whole weight was on our crampons and axes. Crampons?
Yeah, crampons.
Crampons and axes. Suddenly there was a third climber next to me. He was descending with us, keeping a regular distance a little bit to my right and a few steps away from me, just out of my field of vision. I could not see the figure and still maintain my concentration, but I was certain that there was someone there. I could sense his presence. I needed no proof. And his explanation for the phenomenon is that the third man was just me watching myself from a different plane of existence, kind of like what you just said.
Wild.
Yeah.
Huh.
You're really segueing, and like each and every story is like really building on top of another. Yeah, this is all right. I've got a couple more.
Okay.
Stephanie Schwabe.
Schwabe. Oh.
1997.
Wasabi Schwabe. They called her.
Wasabi Schwabe.
Loved her sushi.
Well, funny enough, because she was a cave diver. She embarked on a dive of special significance in Mermaid's Lair in the Bahamas.
Mermaid's Lair.
Lair.
Delightful. I would love to not cave dive there because I never do that. But I like to visit there sometime.
Yeah, it seems lovely.
Yeah, I'm going to take a cruise there, I think.
Yeah, definitely do that. Don't cave dive for this particular reason, but
I'm immediately human trafficked.
Yeah. Oh no! It's the mermaids all along. The mermaids are behind the human trafficking.
Incredible.
So Stephanie's husband tragically died during a dive just 3 weeks earlier, and they had often gone to Mermaid's Lair together. This time she was going alone to collect sediment samples, and after she finished collecting her samples, she looked up and realized that she had lost sight of her guideline, an essential tool which cave divers use to safely navigate their way out of underwater caves. Without it, she was trapped.
Oh, this is so stressful.
And she only had 20 minutes of oxygen remaining. Angry, scared, overcome with grief, Schwabe suddenly felt flushed, and everything around her seemed to, quote, become brighter.
Yeah.
In that instance, she felt like someone else was there in the cave with her, and she said that it felt like her husband, Rob. According to her, the voice, her husband, said something to her that he'd often said when he was alive.
Yeah.
Remember, believe when you can, believe when you can't. Either way, you are right. Remember? With just minutes of air remaining, Schwabe looked up and spotted the guideline. With that, the presence in the cave vanished, and she was able to make her way out. And she is convinced that the third man phenomena that she experienced was her husband, and that it saved her life.
That's incredible.
Right?
The world is such a mystical place.
It is.
Such a magical place.
It is.
And there's room for scientific materialism, but it should never be to the detriment of people who engage with these ideas seriously.
Yeah, 100%.
There's enough room for all of these ideas to exist together.
Exactly. So my next story.
Uh-huh.
Henry Stoker.
Stoker, okay.
Henry Stoker's cousin,
Bram
Stoker, was known for the book he wrote,
I was
Dracula.
right.
Yeah.
Damn.
But Henry had a fantastic story too, and his happened to actually be in real life. Henry Stoker, a Royal Navy officer, was captured during World War I. He spent 3 years as a POW in the Ottoman Empire, during which he was often subjected to solitary confinement. I was confined in a cell, 10 foot square, to which practically no daylight could penetrate.
But he always had a place to kick his legs up.
What?
He always had a place to kick his legs up. It's the Ottoman Empire.
I hate it here. And which bugs and fleas and rats abound.
No one's going to laugh at that joke, but when I listen back to this episode, I'm just going to fist pump and just pat myself on the back. Hell yes.
So eventually, being in this awful, awful place, Stoker decided to try to escape. He and 2 others managed to flee the prison, during which time Stoker and his companions began to feel that there was a 4th man among them. The figure's friendly presence was especially strong when they found themselves in a tight spot, but seemed to vanish when an immediate danger passed. Though Stoker and his companions were recaptured after 18 days on the run, he was repatriated to England in December 1918, and his encounter with the third man syndrome left a strong impression. He later recalled that he and the 2 others agreed that they definitely noticed this 4th figure's presence, noting that it instilled in them a great sense of comfort. He never spoke. Never spoke, nor did he go ahead to lead us. His attitude seemed just that of the true and loyal friend who says, "I cannot help, but when the danger is in hand, remember always that I am here to stand or fall with you." And interestingly, like I said with Sir Shackleton in the beginning, everybody felt this presence and felt the same way about it. I have 2 more stories for you.
Okay.
2 more. James Savany. While ice climbing in the Canadian Rockies near Lake Louise, Alberta, James Savany and Richard Whitmere were overcome with an avalanche. It carried them nearly 2,000 feet.
Oh, that sounds kind of fun.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Savany gained consciousness. He was severely injured, and that's when he discovered that his companion was dead. James Savany's back was broken in 2 places. He had a fractured arm, cracked ribs, severed nerves, torn ligaments in his knees, broken teeth, and internal bleeding.
Did he have fun, though?
He laid down to die.
I see.
But then he felt a sudden, strange sensation of an invisible being very close at hand. Quote, "It was something I couldn't see, but it was physically present. The presence communicated mentally, and its message was clear. You can't give up. You have to try." The presence urged Savany to get up. It dispensed practical advice. It told him, for example, to follow the blood dripping from the tip of his nose as if it were an arrow pointing the way. And as he walked, he kept breaking through the crust of deep snow. Was almost unable to pull his feet back up because of his injuries. Part of the time he crawled. The presence, which stood behind his right shoulder, implored him to continue, even when the struggle to survive seemed untenable. And he finally made it back to base camp, where there were people there to help him. And when the presence left, he he was overcome with loneliness. He understood that it was more than luck that led to this miraculous survival, which I think is also really profound, that in this instance, it was like the loneliness in the sense of like easing that loneliness, and then it coming back so severely is what stuck with me. Like, felt very important. Like, there's another layer to it. It's not just about helping, but it's about like the sense of comfort.
Yeah.
Almost. I have one more, and it's my favorite.
Hell yeah.
Ron DiFrancesco.
Another good name.
9/11. No, it's a good story.
Oh, it is.
It's a good story.
Great.
This is not a bad person. This is okay. It's okay.
This is actually 9/11 2000, not 2001. Nothing happened that day. It was honestly pretty good.
Normal day. So, September 11th, 2001, started out as a very normal day for Ron DiFrancesco. He arrived at work as usual at the World Trade Center in Manhattan, and then made his way to his office on the 84th floor of the South Tower. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 was hijacked and crashed into the North Tower. At first, DiFrancesco stayed put. It was the other tower, not his, that had been hit, and the instructions blaring over the intercom promised that there was no need to evacuate. But after talking with a friend, he decided to leave the building anyway. Minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., the plane crashed into floors 77 through 85 in the South Tower. DiFrancesco managed to make it to Stairway A, the only unobstructed escape route, but he and the others, as they made their way down, they encountered two people who told them that smoke and flames made it impossible to descend any further. DiFrancesco and most of the others followed the other two up towards the roof. But as they climbed, DiFrancesco became increasingly nervous. Eventually, he changed his mind and went down instead. Stymied by smoke and a collapsed wall, he began to fear that he'd made the wrong choice. But then the third man phenomenon began when an unseen male voice told DiFrancesco to get up. He said that he could both hear the voice and feel a physical presence, though no one was there. He said that he was led to the stairs. He said, "I don't think something grabbed my hand, but I was definitely led. There was still danger, so it led me to a stairwell, led me to break through, led me to run through the fire. There was obviously somebody encouraging me. That's not where you go. You don't go towards the fire." And then once he made it through the flames and the smoke to the 76th floor, the voice vanished, and he was able to get out of the building. And in fact, he was the very last person to escape the South Tower before it collapsed.
Huh. Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy, heavy, heavy.
Yeah. It makes you wonder why this phenomenon isn't more consistent with other people who are about to die.
Yeah. I mean, what I think is really interesting, I think you do kind of see this for some people when they die. Some people, when they're about to die, they talk about either seeing an old loved one.
Yes.
Or feeling a kind of presence.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's thought of not necessarily as the third man syndrome, but as something else. I think there's a lot of these types of things that are something very similar to each other, but are categorized differently depending on the situation.
Right.
But yeah, I think that it does happen.
Yeah. Who can say? I mean, maybe love persists even after death.
Yeah.
Huh.
I love that. It's beautiful. But yeah, that is the third man syndrome. There are lots of other stories like that, and it does come up in different ways. So I said BuzzFeed. I didn't use any of the BuzzFeed stories in here, but BuzzFeed did an article, if you want to call it an article. They put together something where people submitted their third man syndrome stories from just regular people, and they're different. Some of them I'm not sure are like, is that a third man story? Is it not? But I like that they're different because kind of like what you described with your radio rental show, they were kind of different in that regard too. Like they were just kind of off, but it could all be categorized as something very similar. So if you're interested in hearing more, definitely check that out. Check some other, I know Reddit has some stuff about it.
Yeah. You know, I had an experience in college where, and this doesn't really fit 100%, but I was walking down a back alley in State College with my friend Brad, and which is a very college name. It was, we were heading toward a suburban development, and the rain was coming down sort of sideways because of the wind. And up ahead of us in this alley, there was a man carrying groceries. And I was about to say to my friend, hey, do you see that guy up there? And then that person carrying groceries sank into the ground and disappeared.
Wait, you told me this story before.
Yes. And I was not in danger to my knowledge. It didn't make me change any of my decisions that evening. But it was certainly strange.
Yeah.
Maybe third men need a break sometimes.
Yeah.
And they need to get groceries like everyone else.
Yeah, and then you see them and they're like, fuck! You weren't supposed to see me.
Oh, gosh, this is going to ruin the whole like suspense of me appearing.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, that's a very fascinating phenomenon that happens.
Yeah.
And I wonder why. We'll never have an answer for that, I am pretty sure.
Yeah. But I like how there's so many different stories and everyone... It's a little bit different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that today, Madison.
Yeah,
very different from the typical true crime stuff.
Yeah. I figured I just switch it up a little bit.
It's fun.
Yeah, keep things light, airy. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what are your takeaways from that?
I think people should lean more into the unexplained and like accepting it. I think it's a lesson for me too. And like not everything is going to have an answer. It just won't. And like coming to accept that, but not dismissing it for just because it doesn't quite have an answer.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things that we've talked about on this, we know a lot, but we don't know everything.
Absolutely not. And for those who find a lot of comfort in the logical, I would say be comfortable with your discomfort.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
There is so much that we just don't know. And that's okay. Science hasn't reached those areas yet.
Yeah.
Probably won't in our lifetime. Does that mean that we have to ignore them completely? There are ways to integrate them into our mindset and the way that we live and the reality that we accept. And that can be a very beautiful and very freeing thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Madison.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you liked that.
Did.
Well, if you are interested in seeing more of us, learning more about us, feel free to check us out at ME Crisis Pod on Instagram and Facebook. Maybe eventually Blue Sky whenever I get around to doing that. You can also send us topic ideas or just say hello if you'd like. Be our next Susan.
That'd be lovely.
And
Susan, if you're out
Susan,
there, we
come
miss
back.
you.
We do miss you. We talk about you quite frequently.
Yes.
More than we probably should. But you can do that on my existential crisis podcast at gmail.com. And ring that bell. Hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends.
And if you want to find me on Instagram, you can see me at... That was actually so fucked that you didn't even bring that up.
Sorry. Nobody wants that.
I'm just fucking around. My Instagram is Marblefolk.
And mine
you can find me
is Madison Epley.
Madison Epley. And it'll continue to be.
It will continue to be.
You've decided.
I have. It's a professional thing that I have done.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to remain that way.
Yes. Quite the professional.
Yes. Absolutely.
This is a business podcast.
It's a business, fashion, language learning,
politics
podcast.
And
yes.
true crime podcast.
And true crime.
And paranormal and
yes.
oddity podcast.
Yes.
All right, folks.
We cover everything.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for bearing with us through the technical difficulties, and hopefully this one's better. It will be. It is.
It is.
It is. Bye.
Bye.